The hate is real. The hate is real, Kathy. I see you hating on us from a mile away, Kathy Engelbert. We all see it. You out here trying to find Caitlin Clark. You out here finding the one person who's actually bringing money into this league. What a joke. You're mad that the Indiana Fever are here right now. Y'all didn't expect us to get this far.
2 minutes ago, the WNBA just dropped a bombshell that nobody saw coming. They've officially punished their biggest star, Caitlin Clark, for exposing what might be the most damaging scandal in women's basketball history. And when you hear what she said, just 4 simple words, you'll understand why Commissioner Kathy Engelbert.
Y'all really didn't expect it. We got Sophie Cunningham exposing the whole league agenda. Exposing them. Caitlin Clark mocking them all on Twitter, all on Instagram, everywhere, because they are
scrambling to contain the damage. But here's the thing. It might already be too late. The hate is real, people. The hate is absolutely real. And right now, Kathy Engelbert is standing at the center of a firestorm that's threatening to tear the WNBA apart from the inside. Because what happened to Caitlin Clark isn't just about a fine. It's about a league that's so terrified of the truth that they're willing to destroy their own golden goose to keep it buried. Let me paint you a picture of just how insane this situation has become. We're talking about a league that has...
So during the game, we saw here, you know, the Fever players celebrating. I would assume based on the reaction that this was after the Lexi Hull steal and everything. And Caitlin Clark on Instagram commented this: refs couldn't stop us. Elite bench mob. It wasn't for the lack of trying. Glad they're having fun and celebrating like no other teams. Will she get fined for saying that? Yeah, she got fined.
Struggled for decades to find mainstream relevance, finally getting the superstar they've been praying for. Someone who sells out arenas, breaks television records, and makes casual fans actually care about women's basketball. And what do? They punish her for speaking 4 words of truth that everyone already knows. Here's what went down. And trust me, the more details that emerge, the more shocking this becomes. The Indiana Fever just pulled off one of the most incredible...
When you're on the WNBA's time, or the NFL's time, or the NBA's time, getting fined... When you're on their time, criticizing the officials, calling out the officiating, I've seen players get fined for that. But when you're on your own time, well, now, other than Sophie Cunningham, Caitlin Clark seems to be the 2 players that come to my mind of players getting fined, criticizing the officials, doing it on their own time, quote unquote, off the clock.
Underdog stories in recent WNBA playoff history. 6 key players injured. Their superstar, Caitlin Clark, watching from the sidelines in street clothes since July. Everything...
You guys, today, Caitlin Clark got fined $200. Kathy, what do you think you are accomplishing by that? What kind of message do you think you're accomplishing by doing? You're not even making an example out of her by finding her an exorbitant amount of money. You are literally making a joke out of yourself by finding her such a little...
Stacked against them. And yet somehow, someway, this group of determined women clawed their way to the semifinals for the first time since 2015. They didn't just make it, they dominated. First, they knocked out the higher-seeded Atlanta Dream in a nail-biting 3-game series that had fans on the edge of their seats. Then came the moment that sent shockwaves through the entire league. Game 1 of the semifinals against the 2-time defending champion Las Vegas Aces. Nobody, and I mean nobody, gave Indiana a chance. The Aces had Iowa...
What world do we live in? Like, I'm pretty sure she just said the refs can't stop them celebrating. This isn't even her going at refs. It's literally like if you say the word refs and you're an Indiana Fever player, you're going to get fined. If you say the word refs as a Fever player, the word referees has to be spoken, cannot be said by an Indiana Fever player, otherwise it's a fine. And the worst part is if they got fined for celebrating. So I don't think, only she got fined, not everybody. There's other people on the floor, everything. She's not, like, they're celebrating, the timeout's been called, Or the foul's been called. It is what it is.
Wilson, the 4-time MVP. They had championship experience. They had home court advantage. But something magical happened that night in Vegas. Kelsey Mitchell caught fire like we've never seen before, dropping 34 points and coming within 2 points of the franchise playoff record.
We know how this works because Sophie Cunningham has told us how this works. If you talk about the refereeing, if you talk about the officiating, on the InstaFace, on the TikToks, on the Twitters, any of that social media, in the public, in the interview, if you mouth it in the shower, Kathy Engelbert will peek in and look around at you and point at you and be like, you're fined. Even though she won't clean up the officiating in her trash-ass league? Okay.
The Fever didn't just beat the Aces. They embarrassed them, winning 89-73 on their home court. It was the kind of performance that should have dominated every sports highlight reel. The kind of story that should have had the entire WNBA celebrating their product. Instead, the league was busy playing social media police. Because while this incredible upset was unfolding, while fans were witnessing basketball magic, Commissioner Kathy Engelbert's office was apparently scrolling through Instagram like hall monitors looking for trouble. And they found it in the most innocent place imaginable. The Fever's official account posted a photo of their bench unit celebrating after this historic victory. These were the players who had stepped up when their stars went down, the unsung heroes who were living out every basketball player's dream. And there in the comments was Caitlin Clark, injured, unable to play, but still the ultimate teammate. She left 2 simple comments. The first, elite bench mob. The second, and this is where everything went.
WNBA definitely got to play these women more. You got to pay these women more. Because what the hell is a $200 fine? This picture right here is giving me Mom Made Pizza Rolls vibes. Mom Made Pizza Rolls and everybody. Ah! Caitlin Clark was fined $200 for her comments she left on the IG post. She said refs couldn't stop us, meaning they advanced to the next round despite the refs trying to throw them a curveball every game, despite having to play against the refs. And the league said, "Oh hell no, you gotta run me that. You gotta run me that 200. You got to run me that 200."
Sideways. Refs couldn't stop us. For words. For innocent words that reflected exactly what every single Fever fan was thinking, what every neutral observer could see, and what everyone in that arena knew to be true. The Indiana Fever had overcome not just a championship caliber opponent, but also questionable officiating that had plagued them all season long. But here's where this story takes a turn that'll make your blood boil. Instead of celebrating this incredible achievement, instead of promoting this feel-good underdog story that was tailor-made for marketing gold, the WNBA decided that those 4 words were somehow a threat to their authority. Within hours, Caitlin Clark received notice of a $200 fine for public criticism of officiating. Let that sink in for a moment. The player who has single-handedly transformed the WNBA's popularity, who has brought more eyes to women's basketball than anyone in the league's history, was being punished for cheering on her teammates from the bench. The person who wasn't even playing, who was dealing with the frustration of watching her championship dreams slip away due to injury, somehow became the villain in the league's twisted narrative.
That Sophie has got jokes. She retweeted this. That's really going to break the bank for her. Starting a GoFundMe now. Sophie, you got jokes. Hun, you got jokes. Sophie Cunningham Central, I'll donate.
And this is where the scandal really begins to unravel, because this isn't an isolated incident. This is part of a disturbing pattern that reveals just how broken the WNBA's leadership really is. Sophie Cunningham has been fined for similar comments. Multiple coaches have been hit with penalties for daring to point out obvious officiating problems. The league has created an environment where speaking the truth is more dangerous than the problems they're trying to hide. But here's what makes Caitlin Clark's situation so much worse. The timing couldn't have been more tone-deaf if they'd tried. While the league was celebrating Aya Wilson's 4th MVP award, showering her with praise as the polished face of the WNBA, they were simultaneously punishing the player who actually drives their revenue. Think about that contrast for a second. On one side, you have the league's established favorite getting recognition. On the other, you have their biggest draw getting penalized for supporting her team. The irony is absolutely stunning. During that same game where Clark supposedly criticized officiating, Aya Wilson went 6 for 22 from the field, looking completely out of sorts against Indiana's inspired defense. Meanwhile, the Fever's bench players, the ones Clark was celebrating, put on a clinic. Kelsey Mitchell was unstoppable, finding her...
Rather than finding players for being excited on the bench and for letting it be known how trash your referees are, why don't you start finding referees for not calling fouls? Why don't you start putting that type of energy into making sure the game is played better? Why don't you do that? Why don't you do that? Because that would be nice. That would be nice if you could do that.
Spots, hitting clutch threes, and making plays that had Vegas fans heading for the exits early. The story should have been about Mitchell's breakout performance and Indiana's incredible team chemistry. Instead, the narrative became about the league's bizarre obsession with controlling their biggest star. And that $200 fine? Don't think for a second that it's about the money. Caitlin Clark makes more in endorsement deals with Nike and Gatorade than most WNBA players see in their entire careers. That $200 is literally pocket change. She probably spends more than that on coffee in a week. This fine was never about financial punishment. This was about sending a message. Don't you dare challenge us, even when you're right. But here's where the league's plan completely backfired. And this is the part that'll have you shaking your head in disbelief. Caitlin Clark's response to this ridiculous fine was...
The physicality is out of control, that's for sure. I mean, you can bump and grab a wide receiver in the NFL for those first 5 yards, but you can do it in the W for the whole half court. You put two hands on somebody like that, it should be an automatic foul. They have the freedom of movement. Freedom of movement. There's no freedom. And I'm not saying that we're not fouling too. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's out of control.
Absolutely perfect. She went straight to Twitter, posted a screenshot of her so-called offense, and wrote, "Got fined $200 for this, LOL." She threw in some laughing emojis and promised that the Fever bench would be even louder in the next game. That's not just class, that's leadership. That's someone who refuses to let petty bureaucrats distract her from supporting her team. And Sophie Cunningham's reaction was even better. She jumped on Twitter and joked about starting a GoFundMe to help Clark cover this massive financial burden. The entire basketball world was laughing at the absurdity of the situation, but the joke was on the WNBA. They'd turned what should have been their proudest moment into a public relations disaster. Because let's talk about what the league should have been focusing on instead of policing Instagram comments. The officiating crisis that everyone, and I mean everyone, has been talking about all season. Coaches across the league have been vocal about the...
What if this is the WNBA foreshadowing? We're seeing how you're acting on the bench. We're seeing how you're talking to the officials on the bench. We will tee you up. Now, whether I think that she deserves a tee for it or not, we're not even going to get into that. What if this is just saying, hey, we're going to tee you up if you continue to get at the officials, if you continue to talk up the officials, if you continue to show up the officials on the sideline, we're going to tee you up.
Consistent calls, the missed fouls that decide games, and the referees losing control to the point where every hard foul risks turning into a brawl. Even Becky Hammon, whose Las Vegas Aces often benefit from favorable whistles, has publicly admitted that the quality of officiating across the league is embarrassing. When you have coaches from rival teams, former players turned analysts, and fans all pointing out the same problems, maybe, just maybe, the issue isn't with the people speaking up. Maybe the issue is with the system they're calling out. But instead of addressing these legitimate concerns, instead of investing in referee training or accountability measures, the WNBA solution has been to fine anyone who dares to mention the elephant in the room. And this brings us to the most infuriating part of this entire saga. The Indiana Fever's playoff run should have been the story of the year. 6 key players injured, including their superstar, who's been out since July. A group of
the Aces couldn't stop her. I actually don't think that the Aces perimeter, honestly, defense or offense is very good, but specifically defense, they just couldn't find an answer for Kelsey. They were sending two on her at different times, but the Fever were running cutters. Kelsey was making her way to the rim. Now, I will say the Aces defense is scary around the rim because you have somebody like Asia who averages over 2 blocks a game, and she's just there waiting and ready to block your shot if you get too close to the rim. But Kelsey Mitchell, I mean, she was just finding her spots, getting to her lanes, hitting those open threes, all of the things.
Determined women who refused to give up, who found ways to win when nobody believed in them. They knocked off a higher seed, then walked into Vegas and stunned the defending champions in their own building. That's the kind of story that transcends sports, the kind of narrative that creates lifelong fans. Instead, the league found a way to step all over their own success story by creating unnecessary controversy. They took a moment that should have been celebrating women's basketball and turned it into another example of why fans question the WNBA's leadership. The optics are absolutely humiliating. While one of their teams is making history, the league office is busy monitoring social media like concerned parents checking their teenagers' texts. But here's what really exposes the hypocrisy of this entire situation. This is the same league that has ignored cheap shots on Clark all season long. The same organization that's turned a blind eye to hard fouls that would have drawn flagrant violations in any other setting. Caitlin Clark has been targeted with physical play that goes beyond normal basketball contact. And the league's response has been silence. But 4 words supporting her teammates? That's apparently where they draw the line. The message couldn't be clearer if they'd written it in neon lights. The WNBA values control over growth, authority over authenticity, and bureaucracy over basketball. They'd rather issue fines than fix their product. They'd rather silence criticism.
All the money that Caitlin Clark has generated for this league, all the tickets sold, all the jerseys, all the record revenue of the ratings, the television deal, and they're going to put their hands in her pocket for $200 for this. I'm like, hey man, do we need to call the armored guard? Do we need to have all this? And we need to deliver it directly to Kathy Engelbert's office. As a matter of fact, Caitlin Clark herself should be able to make an appearance, and she should do how Ice Cube did, when he used to run up into record labels. I'm saying, bring a bat. Caitlin, bring a bat. Bring the black Air Force.
Address the problems causing it. And they're willing to jeopardize the momentum that Caitlin Clark has single-handedly created if it means preserving their fragile image of authority. This isn't just about one fine or one player. This is about what kind of league the WNBA wants to be moving forward. Do they want to be a legitimate, respected professional sports organization that embraces criticism and grows stronger from it? Or do they want to be a fragile PR machine that silences its stars while ignoring its obvious flaws? Right now, under Kathy Engelbert's leadership, they're making the wrong choice every single time. Because here's the reality that the league seems determined to ignore. Caitlin Clark didn't hurt the WNBA by posting those 4 words. She gave voice to what millions of fans were already thinking. She exposed a truth that needed to be spoken. And by punishing her for it, the league has done nothing but prove her point. The refs couldn't stop the Indiana Fever from achieving greatness. And the WNBA's misguided leadership apparently can't stop themselves from making terrible decisions. It
is madness. It is madness. And I mean this. Like, the amount of people that are like, oh, I hate this team. It's like, why? They're excessively celebrating. They're excessively celebrating. They're not there talking down on other teams. They're not doing the Alyssa Thomas. They're not doing a Phoenix Mercury and shit talking other teams' fans. They're not doing Phoenix Mercury and shit talking the other team's players, their coaches, their all of this stuff. And then when they lose, they're silent and they dodge everything. Hell no, they're just celebrating. They're just celebrating. They actually find somebody for saying refs can't stop. The refs won't stop us.
The tragedy here runs deeper than just one $200 fine. The WNBA had a golden opportunity to build incredible momentum off Clark's impact and the Fever's improbable playoff success. They had the storylines, the drama, the underdog narrative that casual fans love. Instead of leaning into that magic, instead of promoting the hell out of this incredible story, They sabotage themselves with petty bureaucracy and tone-deaf leadership. So the question becomes, how many more chances will they waste? How many more times will they punish the messenger while ignoring the message? Because if this league truly wants to thrive, if they want to build on the unprecedented attention that Caitlin Clark has brought to women's basketball, it won't happen through silencing their biggest star. It will only happen when they finally start listening to her. The hate is real, and it's coming from inside the building. But maybe, just maybe, it's time for the WNBA to realize that their biggest threat isn't criticism from their players. It's their own refusal to hear it.